Welcome to Grammar Video Notes. In today's notes, we're going to be learning how to use commas in a series. So we're going to talk about how to use commas to separate lists of things. For these notes, I'm going to need you to get out your supplies. So please make sure you have your notebook, your pen or pencil, and your crayons. Let's start by making sure you have the notes page glued in. You should have received this from your teacher. Make sure you have this glued in. If you don't, please pause the video, get the notes glued in, and then continue the video. All right, let's start by grabbing our blue crayon. We're going to use blue today. And today we're going to talk about how we use commas to separate items in a list. That means I'm listing multiple things in my sentence, and I use a comma to separate between each of those items. The big idea is I need to use commas to separate items in a list of 3 or more. If I only have 2 things, if I said I'm going to eat apples and peanut butter, I don't need commas. There's just 2 things. But if I'm going to eat apples, peanut butter, and raisins, I need those commas to separate my list. So I've got some examples here. First of all, I can use commas if I'm separating individual words. In this instance, I'm talking about the things I bought. I bought Takis, pizza, Sprite, and cucumbers. Since I bought more than 2 things, I'm making a list and I need to separate them. So I can say I bought Takis, comma, pizza, comma, Sprite, comma, and cucumbers. Now, some people don't include that comma right before the and, so if your teacher has taught you not to do that, or down the road if you're in a class and the teacher tells you not to, that's okay. There are 2 different trains of thought on this. It's simpler to remember to always use the comma, and it seems like more people prefer that, but you'll run into instances where they tell you not to. That's okay. But for these notes and in this class, I'm asking you to do that. So for this one, I separated each item, each word, with a comma. Another type of comma you'll be asked to do is when you're making a list of phrases. Look at this next sentence. I took out the trash, walked the dog, and cleaned my room. I'm listing activities that I did, and so I need a comma between each thing that I did. Even though it's not after every word, I'm still using a comma after each thing in the list. So one of the things I did was I took out the trash, comma, I walked the dog, comma, and cleaned my room. So those commas are separating each of the things I did. That's the big idea when I'm using commas. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my pen or pencil. I'm going to encourage you to do the same. And I encourage you to use something other than black ink so that it really shows up. All right, our directions in our practice activity are asking us to use commas in the examples below to make them correct. So as we read these, let's think, what are the things being listed? All right, our first sentence says, Antonio plays basketball, volleyball, soccer, and tennis. So in this one, we're listing different sports. So I need a comma after each sport. So we could see he plays basketball. We can put a comma right there. Volleyball, comma, soccer, a comma, and tennis. One thing I want to point out is that, let me fix that, is that there should be a space after each of your commas. That's harder to see when we're adding the commas on a already typed piece of paper. But when you're doing your own typing or your own handwriting, make sure there's a space after your comma. All right, now we've separated it. Antonio plays basketball, volleyball, soccer, and tennis. Let's check out the next sentence. Mr. Smith runs a restaurant, volunteers at the library, and plays in a rock band. So for this one, we're listing all the different things that Mr. Smith does. This isn't a list of words, this is a list of phrases. So let's look at the things he does. The first thing that he does we can see is right here. He runs a restaurant. So I'm going to put a comma after runs a restaurant. The next thing that he does is he volunteers at the library. That idea is another thing on our list. Oops, my comma disappeared. There we go. And then the last thing he does is he plays in a rock band. These commas have separated each of these things he does. Mr. Smith runs a restaurant, volunteers at the library, and plays in a rock band. Now, I underlined each of the things he did, but when I type my sentence, I wouldn't keep it underlined. So I'm going to go ahead and see if it'll let me erase those so you can see what it'll look like, but it is totally cool if you have those in your notes. All right, let's check out the next sentence. He won't relax until the gifts are bought, sorted, wrapped, and delivered. So for this one, I'm listing things that are going to be done with the gifts. So he won't relax until the gifts are bought. That's one of the things that has to be done. Sorted, that's another thing. Wrapped, that's another thing. And delivered. Now check out this last sentence. I tried to trick you with this one. There are multiple lists in this sentence, and we have to spot them all. The Maya, Aztec, and Inca all ate different foods, including amaranth, potatoes, tomatoes, grasshoppers, and fish. If you've been doing the CKLA 5th grade material with us, this might sound very familiar. So for this one, in the beginning, I'm listing different groups of people. I said the Maya, Aztec, and Inca. That's a list of different groups, so I'm going to use commas to separate each group in my list. We have the Maya, the Aztec, there we go, and the Inca. So we separated our list. The Maya, Aztec, and Inca all ate different foods, including, and now I'm about to list some more stuff. I'm going to list some of the different foods that different groups ate, including amaranth, potatoes, tomatoes, grasshoppers, and fish. So I'm going to fix that one so it's close to the last sentence. There we go. Now I have a list of all the different foods they ate. The Maya, Aztec, and Inca all ate different foods, including amaranth, potatoes, tomatoes, grasshoppers, and fish. So in these examples, we practiced using commas to separate items in a list. Now I'm going to ask you to try it out on your own. On the page next door, I'm going to ask you to write a couple different sentences. The first type of sentence I want you to write, I want you to list some of your favorite foods. Ooh, let's put in a sentence. And then I'm also going to ask you to tell what you would do on a Saturday if you could. Using these prompts, your job is to write sentences where you're going to use commas in a list. So for example, if I was going to list some of my favorite foods, I could say some of my favorite foods are pizza, sushi. Let's see, what else do I like? Ooh, I like salad, and pho. And then go back and make sure you used your commas. You can even use your blue crayon to highlight them. I listed all of my favorite foods, and I put commas to separate them. Same thing for what you would do on a Saturday if you could. So let me get my pen. And you could say, on a Saturday, I wish I could, and then you're going to start listing the things you want to do. These ones probably won't be individual words. They might be phrases. I wish I could sleep in until noon, read in the comfy chair, watch a movie, and eat popcorn. And then go back and check. Did you separate each of those things with a comma? I wish I could sleep it until noon, read in the comfy chair, watch a movie, and eat popcorn. Commas are separating each of the phrases in my list. Bonus points if you realized I also had a comma after on a Saturday. We'll talk about why I did that in future lessons. All right, thank you for taking your video notes with me. Please make sure that you take the time to write in your favorite things instead of my favorite things, and then get this submitted for your assignment.